Renfield is a codependent, and he's using the lessons he learned from the circle, the group that he's in, and applying them against Dracula's attack on Renfield verbally. Kind of like a study in a little bit of a toxic relationship that we see so often. And it's different, yeah, and I thought that was funny but also poignant. There's a fine line here of tragic comedy. I think Nick Hoult's approach is very vulnerable, and I like that. It's in his eyes. It's a real careful tone that Chris McKay is hitting, you know? It's something of a balancing act.
I mean, splatstick humor's kind of been around for a long time. Movies like Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2 kind of perfected, you know, splatstick humor. So I think that there's like a natural connection between humor and horror, and I think even the way, just from a structural standpoint, the way you develop a scare and the way you develop a joke, oftentimes are the very same kinds of things. Or just you're sort of one is something that's shocking, one makes you laugh. But yeah, I mean, splastic horror has always been something that for me is I just didn't, you know, some of my favorite movies have, you know, Shaun of the Dead and things like that, you know.
Renfield is someone who's known as being kind of Dracula's familiar, and in this story we kind of pick up probably about around 100 years into their relationship. So Renfield's been working for him a long time, and to be honest with you, he's just exhausted with the prospect of continuing to do his dirty work. So he's worn down, he's beaten down, and kind of looking for an escape or some sort of spark to kind of return to his normal life and what he misses.
You know, he fully belongs to Dracula in a way. And I think that you don't really get to understand that character under any lens unless you add dimension to that. The way that that dimension is added to this Renfield is unlike any kind of character I've seen personally. Nick is bringing this aspect of guilt, of reflection, of kind of like an inner introspection that you have not seen with Renfields of the past.
Let's do a Dracula movie. Let's have blood squirting out of everybody. Let's have people chopped in half. Let's have people getting superpowers and punching and exploding human beings and guts and gore and like not holding back on jokes. If it's a joke that's R-rated, we do it and we hit it hard. It's fun to be in a movie like this that's gonna come out in theaters that's like unhinged like that. And I think the viewers are gonna be so psyched because it's unique and different. It is unlike any other movie you've seen.
Those jump scares and moments of terror in a film, like they take you off balance and they pull you out of yourself. That's one of the reasons why they're so appealing. And I think when you're in that zone, you can't help but laugh because you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened to me. So it makes the marrying of the genres like really possible and really work when it's done well, because that moment when you're laughing, you can kind of feel yourself like, am I going to be terrified here, or is this going to be funny? And there's like a nice sweet spot where those two feelings diverge that I think you can really kind of hit.
From the very early age of 4 or 5, we had a 35mm projector and a screen he would put up in our living room, and he would play black and white silent films, and one of them was Nosferatu with Max Schreck. Let me tell you something, when you see that movie when you're 5 in black and white with him doing those crazy things with his eyes and his fingers, that leaves an indelible impression. It doesn't go away. And so with this movie, I wanted to bring my appreciation of the effect his performance had on me, that flavor, but also my father. My father, in his own right, was a strong presence and a very elegant man who spoke with a mid-Atlantic accent. So I thought, well, that would be a pretty good model for this character. And then, believe it or not, I thought, you know what, let's open this up a little bit. I was thinking about the relationship that Anne Bancroft's character had with Dustin Hoffman in The Graduate, and so her voice started coming into my mind.
I don't think you'll have time for that drink after all.
Which I'm very happy about. So we have some direct borrowing from Yes, he does. Don't you think he looks like the kind of guy who has to find him off? Yes, he does.
As we were just talking about what Dracula should look like just in general, for me, I wanted to synthesize stuff, whether it was the Bela Lugosi, the Christopher Lee, Gary Oldman, and from the book, from the Stoker novel, I wanted, elements of that. So that's why you have a top hat in one scene, you have a cane. When Cage came in, we had to sort of describe Dracula as like a rock and roll Dracula. We wanted it to kind of be really flashy and big. So, Cage came in and the rings, that's where we got the rings and the fur and all of the, kind of really, soft and tactile textures and that sort of thing in the costume. So that was, it was a lot of...
I just want to say I was absolutely essential to this process because I would go, that looks really cool.
You need someone for this role who's really going to invest time and commitment and really go for it. And that's something that Nick really does, but he does it in such a wonderful way where in scenes with him it's incredibly fun to watch where he's taking interpretation from as well, whether it's Nosferatu and kind of the physical interpretation of Dracula, particularly at the different stages of his healing and power. Anne Bancroft in the Graduate is one of the things that he's looking at times, and it really is wonderful to see Dracula being formidable and horrendous, but also kind of quite manipulative, and that's what this story really goes back to, is this this toxic relationship between the two of them, and they've been together for so long, and they really do know how to push each other's buttons and work against each other. And yeah, Nick has been so committed and really turned up ready to play, and it's just wonderful to watch all the nuances and the things that he's bringing to the character.
He's a movie star. To play with him, to do stunts with him, to feel protected that I won't get hurt while we're swinging full force at each other and covered in blood and delivering like this outrageous fun dialogue. It's been a blast. It's like playing tennis with someone who's just insanely skilled. And to watch him do a little bit of everything. And he's, when you're number one on the call sheet, you're there every freaking day. He's there every day working his butt off and still is super. One of the things I respect the most is watching someone who's number one on the call sheet work their butts off, but also be so nice to the crew and so nice to everybody and caring about their scene partners and everybody around and taking care of anybody he can. So he is just crushing it.
It's a horror action movie, and that's something that Chris McKay really wanted to lean into, that element of that we could be punching heads off and ripping arms off and all these kind of things that you don't see in a lot of movies, which is really, I think it's really fun, which is an odd thing to say about doing that sort of stuff. But again, Christian Tinsley's special effects makeup branch have done an incredible job of making all that stuff practical, which, a lot of the time in movies that would be a digital effect, but they've kind of built like arms that can be ripped off and spurt blood, and the same with head. I've never punched a head off before, and I got to do that on this, so that was one thing off the bucket list.
There's always a line, and when you cross that line, you either just like anything goes. I think this is definitely an anything goes, like arms being ripped off. I didn't really understand how we'd be doing that. I've come off a lot of movies where we work a lot with like green screen and things like that. But then on this one, you literally just see decapitated arms. Just like, there's like, bring in the arms, and there's like arms on a tray. So it's like the things that you think would maybe be green screen or special effects are just practical.
It's so funny, the first time I was doing stuff, I'm making the sound effects because when you're a kid, you're like, and so when you do it for the first time, you have to like, all right. We're really doing it now. So it's been really, really fun. But Brewster, the whole idea for someone like me who, I've done stunts before and stuff, but never like full fight choreography, and get up in blood and get hit there like this, and then get thrown and get pulled on a wire and shoot guns and get exploded. I had squibs on me and got shot and got pulled back. My character gets his fucking ass kicked, so I've gotten pulled in every direction, like hitting to the left, hitting to the right, getting thrown. So it's been awesome. And to be led by Chris Brewster, it's been a joy.
The stage actor has his pressures, but the film star has the pressure of the close-up. And when they're in there, if there's something going on, they're gonna see it. And if there's nothing going on, they're gonna see it. Well, Hoult is always, there's something going on, and he's bringing it.
When I first saw Cage in the getup, I definitely got the chills, I think, because you don't, I mean, I can't imagine a kind of a modern day Dracula in my head. And in a way you can, as this kind of like a birthday party monster in I think the worst way that you could do Dracula. But I think the way that they translated him now is just yeah, it gives you the chills. It's like it's kind of stylish. It's like it's still really scary. The teeth, you know.
Awkwafina, I told her right at the table read what a big fan of hers I am, and that's genuine. I really am a fan. I can tell you that she is a very nice person. I was delighted to know, because my whole my son is a fan. I was so happy to see that, you know, she's not only this enormous star, she's a really nice person, and that's always a good feeling.
You have the most narcissistic boss imaginable, who's also a powerful blood-sucking vampire, and how you manage to get out of that relationship and survive would be, I think, the pitch, but told in a comedic, heartfelt, absurd, strange way.
Ready, and 3, 2, 1, go! Here we go. Stunt set. Set. Here we go. Ready, and 3, 2, 1, go!